Shabbat shalom, everyone. I came across an article this week. Makes me want to be a scientist. The article is titled, Nature's Swiss Army Knife. What can we learn from Venom? It was in the New York Times Magazine by Kim Tingley, and the article shares about how the animals in our world, the reptiles and insects and other venomous animals, have the potential to resolve some of our greatest pharmaceutical challenges. It turns out that animal venom contains hundreds, if not thousands, of molecules that have powerful effects on the human body. In the aggregate, these molecules can have disastrous consequences, but applied strategically and sparing, they open up miraculous possibilities. For example, the latest weight loss drugs, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound, all are based on a compound that is sourced from the venom of the Gila monster, which is a lizard that lives typically in southern Arizona and northern Mexico. It's a very fashionable lizard. If you look it up after Shabbos, you'll see it has black glove-like coloring on its legs, black head, black tongue. It spends most of its life underground. And you'll see if you look it up, there are all these crazy stories about people who have terrible chance encounters on hiking trails or who own a Gila monster pet and somehow get a bite and have disastrous consequences. It's no good. But it started in the 80s. There was this researcher named John Pisano, and Pisano was fascinated by animal venom, specifically reptile venom, and he put out all these ads in the classified section of the Washington Post, like seeking poisonous animals, please bring me. And people would bring him these lizards and insects and all of these animals, and he would take the venom and study it and sequence it looking for possibilities. And not just him, but he was also super generous and shared it with other researchers. So there was a gastroenterologist named Jean-Pierre Ralphman, who in the 80s was studying these different venoms, looking for treatments for, specifically for diabetes and looking for effects on pancreas. And he began researching the Gila monster, started researching it, kind of left it behind, went and did other research. But in the 90s, he paired up with endocrinologist John Eng, and they both returned to the Gila monster. Why? The Gila monster has this incredible ability to survive for a whole year with just a few meals. And they wondered if it's possible that in the venom of this creature who can live without eating, who has, as Tingley says, a glacial metabolism, is it possible to find something that might help humans? So they resequenced the venom, and within that resequencing, they found a molecule that had been previously overlooked, which they called exendin-4, which acts like the GLP-1 hormone in humans that helps to regulate insulin. It was amazing. Now, here's where it gets fascinating, and I apologize for all the science stuff. I'm still learning it myself. I'm trying to represent it. I think it's so interesting. John Eng wants to patent this molecule. Ralphman is kind of not interested. He's like, I don't think so much. And Eng brings it to all these different companies, including the VA, and everyone says, like, excuse me, what? You want to take a toxic lizard and you're going to turn that into a medicine for humans? And he's like, yes, it's not the venom. I didn't actually take the venom. It's a molecule that's inspired by, that's found in, that's synthesized, that's created. I want to do this. It's going to be amazing. And nobody would help him with the patent. So he patents it on his own, and he's schlepping it around and trying. He finally finds a startup, Amylin Pharmaceuticals, who's willing to work it into a drug. Spoiler alert, we all know what happens. Amylin creates the drug. It's licensed. In 2002, Eli Lilly and company buys the license for $325 million, and we all know where those drugs are today. They're amazing. And they're not just about weight loss. There's research now into the possibility that Wegovy and these other GLP-1 drugs might have the ability to address inflammation in the brain that's been linked with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. It might also support heart and kidney function. It's amazing. And you might be sitting there saying like, okay, cool, what a lovely story. Here's a story about a lizard in the desert that has this venom that creates this one drug that has a specific application. What a nice story. But the article went on to tell drug after drug after drug that have been created from animal venoms. There's a hypertension medication that was created based on a chemical compound found in the venom of a Brazilian viper. There's an analgesic that was licensed by the FDA in 2004 that's sourced from cone snails. There's a medication that's used to treat autoimmune disorders that comes from sea anemone, and my favorite, this is the coolest thing ever, a peptide that's a hormone that's found in scorpion venom. And this peptide binds itself to cancerous tumors. And they're doing this cool research now to see if they can combine fluorescent dyes with this peptide, which would mean that a surgeon could go in and could create a light-up system to make sure that they're getting out all of the tumor, and or that they could attach a medication to that peptide, which would mean you wouldn't need chemo or radiation. They could just give you this medication that would sort all cancers. That's amazing. That is so cool. Okay, why am I telling you all of this about venoms and nerding out on venoms? This research is so amazing. On the one hand, it's amazing because there's a guy, John Pisano, who once upon a time was like, you know what? I think I'm going to research venom, and that's going to have amazing possibilities. I hear the word venom, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. I'm out before you even say what's in it. And then that he researches it and finds out that within this venom are all these possibilities. That is truly miraculous. As I was reading this article, as I was thinking about all of this incredible science, it made me wonder, what would happen if we were able to apply this same outlook to the toxins and venoms in our own life? Now, in the aggregate, we would all agree nobody would sign up for Tsuris or Challenge. But what would happen if we could interrogate the challenges in our life, the toxins in our life, the venom in our life, for keys that might unlock new possibilities? When I was growing up, every year at the Passover Seder, my dad used to share this story about Dr. Bernie Siegel. The story goes that once upon a time he'd been invited to a conference. He was invited to speak at a conference. And the day of the conference arrived, he'd planned to fly out in the morning and then speak. But he was just having an off day. Everything was running late. He finally got in the car, he's driving, it's pouring down rain, there's crazy traffic. And then to top it all off, he gets a flat tire. So he's standing there on the side of the road, so frustrated. It's raining, cars are whizzing by, he's getting flecked with mud. He finally changes the tire, he gets to the airport, he rushes in and arrives at the gate just as the plane is taking off. He's furious. He goes to the gate agent, tries to figure out another flight. There's no other flight that will get him to the conference in time. He goes home frustrated. That night, he reads in the news that the plane that he was supposed to be on had crashed. If it had not been for the rain and the traffic and that flat tire, he would have been on that plane. So he got that flat tire bronzed, and he put it over his mantle as a reminder that things aren't always what they seem to be. Thank God plane crashes aren't always a part of our life experience. But every one of us has a story of something that in the moment was really problematic that turned out for the good. I hear stories all the time of people who were struggling with some sort of medical condition and then years down the road, because of that struggle, are able to help a loved one dealing with a medical challenge. I hear stories after stories of people who end up in the wrong place, the wrong college, the wrong street, and end up meeting somebody who changes their life for the better. Or stories about someone who's laid off, who loses their job in what seems like the worst possible time, and yet, because they were laid off, they're able to find a new job that's a more lucrative and more enjoyable field that ends up taking them through their career. We all have these moments. So what do we do with this outlook? How do we develop this outlook? If you've ever been reciting grace after meals, there's this gorgeous teaching that comes in the Harachaman section. Harachaman, hu yivarech oti v'et ishti v'et zori v'et kol asher li, otanu v'et kol asher lanu, kemo shenitbarchu avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, bakol mikol kol, ken yivarech otanu kulanu yachad, b'veracha shelema v'nomar amen. Which is to say, Harachaman, compassionate one, please bless me and everyone I know and love, just like you blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in everything, from everything, and through everything. Bakol mikol kol, please bless us in this way completely. The Ein Yaakov, a 16th century commentator, notes on this teaching that our ancestors had really challenging lives. They had a lot of venom. They dealt with family dislocation and conflict. They dealt with war. They dealt with family planning challenges. They dealt with intense strife and suffering. And yet, our Torah teaches that they were blessed in everything, from everything, and through everything. So our challenge is to be like our ancestors. Our challenge is to develop the muscle to be able to look through the venoms in our life for possibility. True blessing doesn't come from a perfect, pain-free existence. True blessings come when we're able to look through the challenges in our life, the venom in our life. Sometimes our greatest healing comes from excavating the blessings, the potential healing benefits of our greatest pain. Please rise, page 184.